Hey everyone, I'm Stefan, and as you can see, I'm from K2. I'm the base program manager, and I'm here today with.
Moritz Bertram. I'm from Sollit. We are a software provider from the Netherlands, and today we want to thank K2 for the potential of this partnership. And we want to use this time today to demonstrate the API connection between our two softwares for you and how you can benefit from it.
Perfect. Before we get right into it, maybe let's get some admin stuff done first. There is a Q&A button down here, as you can see. Please use that to tell us ask any questions that you have. We'll try to answer them as soon as possible, either directly or in the end or afterwards, depending on what the questions are. There's also a chat functionality. You can use that, but depending on how much chatting is going on, we might miss a few questions, so better to use the Q&A. All right, and as you saw, we got some questions for you. Would be really cool if you could answer those in between.
Discuss the findings later on after we've showcased our solution to you, and then we can see what you have all chosen as a reply. Okay,
Awesome. Let's get into it.
let's get into it. All right,
Please step into my office.
let's step into our office. Yeah. Okay, so I will give you all a short overview of Sollit as a company because I'm certain that most of you have not heard from us yet. Sollit is a Dutch software provider, and we aim to provide for you, as the installer, a one-stop solution with the goals of optimizing your sales processes as well as your workflow optimization. And just some, minor key facts. This doesn't work here. We've been in the industry for 13 years, as I mentioned, from the Netherlands, based in the beautiful city of Zwolle. We have around 1,000 plus customers who are already satisfied with Sollit and its solutions. And we have quite the colorful team at home in the Netherlands, 60 specialists from all over the world. Me personally, I'm responsible for the German side of sales and account management. So if you do business in Germany, sooner or later, you're going to hear from me or I will hear from you, depending. And yeah, pretty much that's it about Sollit. The details for our software I will showcase you in detail in a little moment. Just some minor facts to get you acquainted with us. So the main goal of us is that you have the total control over your internal workflow. And to do this, we will interview you first and make sure that we can analyze and find out if there are any shortcomings that we can eradicate with our software. And then we create a very clearly defined work process, which we will then have displayed within our software. And as you can see here, this is totally up to you. It will be then displayed in our software, as I mentioned, and you will have your processes within our tool to make quotes with and reach out to your customers. Oops, wrong button, I'm sorry. On the bottom right, you can see a few of the modules that we offer for our solutions, and all of these are optional. So you don't have to choose these. We don't have a cut out option for our customers. What we instead offer is a very clearly defined and first of all researched offer for you so that we can just give you those benefits that you truly require. So part of this, of course, is the CRM, our customer relationship module, as well as several others that help you make your sales much quicker. So, of course, a design tool to create your solar installations on top of the roof using satellite imagery, therefore then creating a quote, and afterwards, of course, also planning the installation with your installing employees and invoicing. And once the installation has been done, you can handle all of the information that's coming in from your customer to you through our dashboard and our monitoring system, allowing you to keep your customers connected to you even after the installation. We also offer an app that comes for free, of course, with our software, which gives you the option to utilize this to directly input information into Sollit, even when you're at the customer's house. And the idea behind is that these formulas that we have, these documents that we have, are very, very liberated. I'm sorry, very. You can edit them, and then you can utilize all of these informations while you sit at the customer to fill out this information. You can take some pictures, for instance, of the roof, of the different areas that are interested into your installation. And these images will all then land at Sollit, where you can then utilize them for your planning process. As I mentioned earlier, we offer also a design tool where you have the option to either use satellite imagery to directly take a look at the house that you want to create a proposal for. You can also use drone imagery, but using satellite imagery allows you to create a proposal even before you head out to your customer. And nothing screams professionalism like coming prepared with an already interesting quote to the customer when they meet you for the first time at their house. Yeah, apart from this, after you've created the design, you have then the option to quickly create a proposal. And here it's the same process. These proposals are tailor-made. So they feature your corporate branding, your logos, your colors, and any and all information that you want to have within your quote for your customers to see. And all of these informations that you will see in a moment once I display the process come directly from our software. So if you have the knowledge, you can even add some more document templates and tailor them to your different needs, for instance, for B2B projects or for B2C projects. Once the quote has been signed, you can then handle all of your installation needs through our calendar planning event tool. And this basically allows you to implement your installing teams, and then you can assign them to different time slots and to different leads. As you can see here on the screenshot, you have the option to choose from different teams and send them to different locations, of course. If you implement the location of your installation teams, you can then also display the time to travel to these appointments, which gives you a much more clear defined overview of what team is available at what time and who's going to be unavailable, of course. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, we also have the monitoring system. We have a connection to the major brands of inverters, allowing you to directly access any and all sort of error messages that are displayed even before your customer can see them, giving you the option to directly contact your customer and displaying you as a very alert and very proactive installer. Therefore, as I mentioned, keeping the customer chained to you. So this was only a very brief overview. In a moment, I will take you into our software to show you the design and quote creation process. But there's much more to discuss, which would, of course, be a little bit too much to do within this time slot of this webinar. So if you are interested to find out more, don't hesitate to contact me, reach out to me. You will be sent my information after this webinar is over, and then I will be happy to take you through the entirety of our program, and we can find out what solution would work best for you. All right, and I think that's it from me. We will now head over to Sollit as a program, and then we will create a proposal together. Okay, and here we are already. Our software is browser-based, meaning that you do not have to download anything, meaning you don't have to check for any regular updates. Our software will always be up to date and would always be available to you. And so the first thing that comes to the eye on this side here is on top this very colorful display. And these are our different status overviews. And these are, as I mentioned earlier, highly adaptable. So we don't offer any clear-cut solution to you, but instead we would like to find out what sort of process works best for you. These numbers within these processes display how many projects are within this certain status at this moment, meaning that you always have a very clear overview of what project is stuck at what stage and what has to be done. The colorful indications, of course, can then be used to display different sorts of responsibilities within your team. So, for instance, the sales team has a different responsibility to the installing team and the planning team, of course. That's entirely up to you, and it's up for me to find out what process works best for you. Down here, you have a few projects already displayed, which are in the first process stage right here at the beginning. And here you have a quick overview over the address, over the telephone number, over the person who's responsible for them, of course, and the address. And to start, I will just use this one right here and click on the design aspect over here, which will bring us to our address, which is a beautiful multiple family home in the Netherlands. And I have already created here this design, which I will now display for you. Zoom in a little bit so you can see better. All right, so as we can see here, we have a flat roof, which is absolutely no problem either for Sollit, but also not for the K2 racking later on. And I have displayed here just 2 rows, very simple installation, using the hardware which I have selected earlier before. So to do this, you have to enter all of your solar panels, all of your inverters, batteries, heat pumps, what have you, as well as all of the financial information, meaning later on at the quote section, your buying price of your hardware as well as your desired asking price will be displayed, of course, not to the customer, but only to you, making the planning process and your financial planning much more easy for you. And yeah, if you want to see more about the design tool, I will not go into too much detail because it would take up too much time. Just reach out to me and I will be happy to show it to you in private, not in person. I can come to you, of course, but we can do it digitally through Teams or through Zoom. And this design that I have now created will now be the foundation for the quote that we will create together. So going on to the next section right here, on the left-hand side, we see the K2 webinar design that I've created, featuring 8 solar panels and this sort of other information for you. So if you now go back to the design tool and create maybe another design, just to have a comparison, then these will be displayed also on the left-hand side. And now here you have the option to click transfer to quote. Now, our cooperation with Enphase, of course, just let me ask to add these missing products for our inverters. No problem. And all of these are now here at the bottom in our overview of the quote. We can see here the solar panels as well as all of those different Enphase items. But there's something very, very crucial missing, of course, which is all of the items from K2. And this is something that now Stefan will display to you.
Thanks, Moritz. So I'll take over with the K2 base part. As you can see, Sollit as well as K2 is really fond of having connections via APIs because they just offer a lot of advantages, like not having to input data twice, being faster, less error prone, etc. And what's going to happen, I'm going to click here once. I think I'm already logged in. I'll just double check. Nope, need to log in. All right. Yes. The good thing is we don't share account info, so you can use different email address. Even like if a colleague created it for you and has a base account, you can also just log in there with his account data then. All right, so we have that connected, and now I can import it. And for the ones that are familiar with base of you, what you can see here is we don't start with the typical dashboard view. We now have the import functionality down here. So I'm just gonna create the project. The idea is having a pre-filled project already having most of the data in there. So as you can see, address is there. We have the project name. We have a tag that you can later search for. And yeah, I'll just click add and then we can continue. Based on the location, we already have a lot of the necessary information to get a really good structural verification calculated. And one big part is obviously the design code that has to be adhered to. In this case, Moritz started a project in the Netherlands, so we have the Eurocode with the national annex of the Netherlands. If we did it in Germany, we would have the same with the German annex. And based on that, there's different wind and snow loads, and most of them are automatically taken out of the address already. So the only thing that you guys still have to do is what's the failure consequence class, what's the design working life of the installation, and the terrain category. And in case you're not familiar with one or few of those terms, you can always click on the question marks, get some more information. Don't worry, if you do that with your part, it will not be in German, it's going to be in English because it's based on the browser language, which is set to Germany here. All right, so I'll just put that to CC2. I'll take a design working life of 50 years and a terrain category. Maybe that one is nice to just see. That typically tells you how is the surrounding area. Is it quite open? Can the wind just rush through, or is it shielded? So there's some higher, taller buildings nearby, and that has a quite high influence on the wind load situation for the project, and that obviously also influences the price. So really important, doing it correctly. So I'll just, instead of selecting, I'm gonna import the roof now. There could also be a project with several roofs if you wanted to do that. And in this case, it will be a flat roof with foil on top. All right, so there's some additional necessary information you just have to put in as well. So for us, we need to know if there is a parapet wall around the whole building, and since this is a flat roof, we also need to know if what's the friction coefficient. And that one might seem a bit tricky, looks really technical, but it's actually not that complicated. As most of you probably know, if it's a flat roof installation, we try to only ballast the whole structure to not have to fix into the roof and then needing a roofer that has to professionally make the installation work again. And in this case, we really need to know how slippery the roof is, right? And that's what that coefficient is. So If you're really unsure, you can always measure that on site or take one of the recommendations that we also have here in the question marks. All right, so now that we did that, let's move on to the design. I'll just do a module layout. In this case, okay, you selected a module that has some dimensions that don't work that good. No worries. That's why it showed that we don't have a suitable system, but we'll just fix that quickly. Still not. Let's go the other way around. All right. Okay. Interesting error. Typically, I would have been able to select a mounting structure here. I'm not sure why that's not working at the moment. We'll look into that later. I'll just continue quickly by doing a new project, but then we will not be able to send it back. All right, let's take that one. All right. Yeah, so we had a German webinar in the morning, and that's the building we did there. Right, in this case, it was a pitched roof. We had all the necessary data there, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with the base planning itself. I assume most of you guys are familiar with that. In case you're not, you can always check out one of the more specialized webinars about base, or which I would highly recommend if you're a beginner, you can check out our website. There's the training area there where you can just do a lot of self-learning quite fast. And in this case, once we're done, you always need to check for that part up here. There needs to be a green check mark. Yes, because in that case, as long as you input all the necessary valid data, the system is structurally verified. That means you will be able to plan it and build it like that, right? All right. And then once you're done, we're on to the summary page where you will see all the different building areas in case there are more than one, and of course the bill of material. And you're able to generate the PDF report. That is quite important because this one contains not only all the necessary data for your customer to be happy and feel safe, because it shows them, hey, the planning that was done is correct and it's structurally verified. So that's the initial part that we have up here. Same thing, check mark. And then you have the individual installation instructions, the rail cutting plan, the dimensions of the module fields. Plus, if necessary, most of the time, if it's a larger project, there's also it could be that you have a structural engineer that really wants to recalculate everything, and they will be able to according to all the data that is provided in the structural analysis section in here. All right, and once I'm done with that whole thing, I will then be able to send everything back by clicking on the design software part and clicking on Solid. All right. Yep.
Okay. Now that this process is over, I will take over again and show you how this is going to look within Solid. Let's see if he had... All right, so now here we have this unique ID that you can utilize to find your project within K2 Base, of course. And now we can click on Add Material from K2. Let's find out if it worked. Yeah, it's not finished, so I'm sorry, this is on our end. There was some issue with this problem. Usually now all of this material would land within our overview of the quote, as well with the same asking price from K2. So you have a very, very clear process of what is all required for this installation to be completed. Sorry that we can't showcase this to you, but if you want afterwards, we can try to show this in a more clearly defined manner. At any rate, now we can continue on to create a quote. Here you have some options of entering the annual consumption for your customer. So this is usually something that you can do before you even start planning, just that you have some overview. And I will enter the usual 3,500 kilowatt hours and click on recalculate. And now, based on the information that I have given the system, it tells me that this installation will be paid off in 5 years and 7 months. Now, of course, you can play around a little bit. You also want to convince your customer as good as you can. So you can click on extra, and here you can add sort of inflationary values. So if you want to say the price for power every year increases by 5%, you can click on recalculate, and therefore the payback period, of course, will then diminish a little bit. So this is just something for you to calculate around and arguments to have in hand once you head out to your customers. Down here, you can also then split up your payment if you want to do that. So payment on order in percent or on delivery, that's entirely up to you. These areas over here for the energy tariffs, you can now ignore. They will be in a separate folder over here. If you do heat pump installations, this is also something we can do within Sollit. It's not going to be part of this webinar because it would take up too much time and it's not part of K2's business. So we will stay here. And the idea now is that we can here create a quote. And this quote comes from a quote template that we have created earlier. You can adapt this to look however you want it to look, and you can, of course, also offer different sort of templates. So if you want to send out quotes to your B2B customers or your B2C, sorry, customers, you can send them different documents and they can look however you want them to look. Now I will click on save and email that quote. And now this document will be generated and sent out to the customer, which happens to be me. So I'm sending this out to myself. You can see this new quote. Yeah, it's just a very brief one that I have whipped up last minute. So sorry if it doesn't look too professional. Basically, just a very clear overview. You have the image of our satellite image here, sort of work that has to be done. Here you have the overview of how much you're going to charge the customer. You can either have a very clearly defined list of items, or you can just ask for the singular asking price. Just ignore the contemporary Dutch words here. We are a Dutch company, so sometimes there's just a Dutch word in there. Take it as a learning experience. Here, of course, you have some information about the protection value, about the warranty of your system, and of course about the environmental savings, which is something that most customers care about nowadays and gives you something to talk about and convince them to sign on with you. Of course, the savings, the financial aspects, the system power output, and all of this information comes from Sollit. So therefore, you have the option to change up this document template using our data and create a quote that displays correctly how you want to be displayed. Anything else I forgot to talk about? No, just mostly the same. You can, of course, also attach the data sheets right here, as well as the static report that has been just created earlier. You can all have it attached over here. All right, but now we want to send it out to our customer, which is me, Mr. Moritz Bertram. I would send it out. And then I will head to the profile to show you something really cool, which has now happened with this quote. So now clicking on the profile, I think I skipped this part earlier in the beginning. Here you have the very brief overview of the customer, about the address, about the native language of the person, about product interests in case you want to have potential for upsell opportunities in the future, the annual consumption rate right here, and of course, any sort of appointments that you want to create through this lead will be displayed right here. I'm not going to go into this right now. If you're interested in this sort of stuff, let me know. I can show you this in a private demo, of course. But here you can see now that the quote that we have created is being displayed right here, and it's highlighted yellow as document sent. Checking on the right side here, we have our status updates, and this is as a reminder to who has created what for this lead. So for instance, if this customer is now going to go to vacation for 2 weeks and there will be no work on your side, you can make a note right here on this part. And then in 2 weeks, you get a reminder, hey, don't forget to reach out to your customer again. And we can see right here, email sent, Offerte, which is Dutch for a quote. The customer is going to see the following now, which will be again the quote that I have just shown to you. But he now has the option of decline. So ignore this. This is also going to be in English then on your end. But here he has to tell you why he declined it. For instance, it's too expensive. Just a few words. They have to be filled in, otherwise he cannot decline it. Sorry, I need the mouse. And he can also sign it right here using the mouse. Oops. I have to sign this also. And now all of this information and the fact that the customer has taken a look at this quote as well as signed it is being displayed on our profile page within Sollit. Now this we can close again. I will refresh the landing page. Scroll down a bit, and we can now see that the quote that was earlier only in yellow has now been declared as signed, so as a green. And you can see right here also that we have sent earlier out the quote, document sent, and here that the document has been viewed by me, the customer, which also means this in Dutch. And now that there is a status change, meaning quote accepted, an automated email is being sent out to the customer saying, hey, thank you so much. We have created a quote for you. We will reach out to you in the very near future. So this automation is something I want to highlight again, because this is something that can seriously save you a lot of workload, and you can create any sort of automation that suits your needs. So for instance, if some amount of time passes, then you can automatically create a mail that is being sent out to your customers. Hey, dear customer, are you happy still with us? Anything you need from us? Just to give this customer the feeling that you're there, you're prepared, and you want to talk to them, even after you have created the installation. So you have a lot of options to make your life easier, and I would be very happy to show you more of this in person if you're interested in this. I think now this is it from my end. If there are any questions at this moment regarding Sollit,
Yes,
don't hesitate.
yeah, we already do have one. Yep.
In chat, yeah.
Yeah, we have one in the chat.
All right. I will move over.
Yes, let's move over. Hello again, and hey Harris, nice to have you. No worries for being late. You can also get the whole webinar afterwards. You can check the video, but we mentioned that earlier. So you will need to have an account with Solid, and you also need to have a K2 account. We don't, like we said, share any account details or information to but not exclusively because of data privacy reasons. So the best thing is probably to contact you guys, right? And
Exactly. And Harris, I think I read this correctly. You would like to test our software. So there's a clear issue with this. We don't do any sort of testing or demo simply because what you've seen just now has been created by hand. So once you get access to our software, you have a very blank slate. There's nothing in there. So before we can even get you signed for this, we will have to have an interview process where you will talk to me as well as to my lovely colleague Jördis, who will be in charge of the implementation of this. And then we have to clearly define what sort of process you need. And in order to do this, and you remember the colorful status updates up top, we need to invest some manpower and time, of course, in this. So a testing account is simply not possible because it always comes with some work on our end. I hope this clears this up for you.
right. Might sound bad, but I think it's actually an advantage that you guys really do a lot of customization, because that way you don't have one out of the box process that fits all, right? You really
Exactly.
take time, you consider what the customer actually need, and you don't just tell them, hey, that's the way our software looks, that's the process, the way the software works, and that's the process you need to adhere to. You do it the other way around. You check what the customer already has, because typically the processes they have, they already work, right?
The idea also is that through this very, very laborious implementation movement, that you as a customer will learn how to use Solid to your advantage so that you don't have to rely on us so much anymore. So quite a few of our German customers, once they signed up, they made a lot of very drastic changes to their system on their own. And I called them up later and asked them about this, and they said, oh, this just works better for us. So it's always your decision. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of years of experience with our customers. So if you have any questions or uncertainties, then ask. We can help. We can try to help. And we want to make sure that you succeed. So basically, that's what we would like to do with you.
Awesome.
All
I
right.
would really like, if you have, or if you want to fire the questions, we're happy to answer all of
I
them.
think we can also do the that you use your voice. You don't have to use the
Oh,
chat
yeah, right.
if you want to.
Yeah, there's a hand sign right below Moritz. If
Mhm.
you click on that one, you will also be able to actually talk to us if you want to. Or if you're more shy, you can also text.
Exactly.
Obviously.
We don't discriminate, no.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think it's also time for us to pull up the questionnaire that we sent out in the beginning.
Yes, let's have a look at that one and discuss
I've
that
seen that some people have
quickly.
already replied.
Yeah, they are.
All right. So first question being, what's your main bottleneck these days? And unsurprisingly, same as in the earlier German webinar that we had,
Yeah.
the majority of you people, I'm not sure if you can see the results on your own. Probably not, but 44%, or we can.
I think I could share them, right? Yeah, I'll just share
Oh yeah.
them. So you should see them now.
Yeah, now you can see it. Okay, so as you can see, 44% of you have bottleneck within sales conversion and quoting, which doesn't surprise me. But as I showed you now, using the combination of K2 Base as well as Solid, this process has become much, much easier for you and should save you some valuable time to spend, of course, on stuff that matters more.
All right.
Operations
So
planning and
let's.
executing. Oh, by the way, to the operations thing, I can also mention something. This is not something I've shown now because it would be
Yeah.
just a little bit too much. But if you remember the presentation that I have displayed earlier in the beginning of this webinar, we also offer an installation planning tool, meaning an integration to your Outlook calendar, where you can then, as I mentioned, assign your teams through different leads and different construction sites. And these construction teams then will receive from your end, from your planning, the list of materials, the information where to go, of course, contact information, who to call when they get there, as well as the option to, after the installation, get the signature from the customer. So make sure everything is installed correctly, and then both parties sign it, and these can also then be sent out to the customer.
Right. Similar result actually for the second question.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like in the German market, but yeah, like you said, it would have been weird to have it differently. A lot of you guys actually do PV batteries and electric vehicles, plus also some of you additionally heat pumps as well, which makes sense. PV is a lot really integrated nowadays.
Most of the customers that speak to me mention that they usually offer batteries every time when they make a quote for a solar installation, which I think is a good idea.
Mm.
Especially when you take a look at the current situation which is going on globally, I think it's a good idea to be a little bit prepared in case something happens with a battery.
Yeah, definitely. And last but not least,
Yeah, how much of your work is new installs versus retrofits, and the majority again is more new installs, which of course is great because this means more customers to you. And because new customers are always important, as I mentioned earlier, you also have the option using Sollit to stay connected to these customers even after you have created the installation. So, for instance, you give them a maintenance contract, and once a year you drive out, you take a very nice picture of their house using your drone, for instance, read out the inverter, and then you give a report to your customer attached with a nice image of the house. He's happy, you're
yeah.
happy, and he's connected to you for a long time.
All right, so we got some additional questions. One is or if the whole software also exists for Ubuntu. Yes, it does. That's a good thing
I think so, yeah.
because it's browser based.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Me personally,
base and also solid.
exactly. Me
Yeah,
personally, I work on a MacBook, but my colleagues, as well as right now, we work on Windows, so it's no problem there.
yeah.
Operating system doesn't matter.
Actually, you can also use it on an iPad, right? I guess.
We do offer an app. The design process, I always recommend to go through an actual laptop or computer, simply
Yeah,
because, as you may imagine, using a mouse is always much more precise than using your finger.
true. Yeah.
Right, right. Just from the off, as I mentioned also earlier, we do also offer an app which usually is used to enter any information that you can get from your customer. So the general idea would be that you sit there using your phone at the customer's kitchen table and you ask them, hey, what's your idea? What do you want? Do you want the maximal load of solar panels? What's your consumption rate? How much do you pay? And all of this information you can then enter using the app, which will then be displayed on the profile page, which I showed you also in the
Yeah.
beginning.
And another question, does your software also account for inverter panel and battery manufacturer choices when calculating system performance and costs?
It does. So as you may imagine, using the racking systems, it was heavily branded to K2, using K2 base, of course. So that's only the K2 materials. But the choice of hardware is entirely up to you. The only thing
Yeah.
that you have to do is you have to enter these informations using the data sheets, but not only for the technical information, but also for the financial aspects. Meaning that you should enter your, the buying price of these hardware items, as well as your asking price. So the software will always calculate the correct profit margin for you. So you're not married to any sort of brand. You can use whatever you want. And regarding the monitoring, in the end, we are connected to all of the major companies. So Grovat, Huawei, it's on our website. I don't know them by heart right now, but if you check our website out, it's all displayed right there.
Nice. Plus, if it's not, you can probably also request to have them added, right?
Exactly. So nowadays, most inverter companies are very, very easy to please and eager to please, of course. So they are happy to share their APIs with us so that we can then display any sort of information within our inverter.
Nice. All right. Another question. Is it possible to design off-grid PV systems in Solid?
Off-grid, just so that I understand this correctly, are you talking about the freestanding arrays or about,
It's
in German it means Inselanlage?
Inselanlage.
Okay.
Nicht netzgebunden.
So if I understand you correctly, feel free to reach out and correct me. So you mean an installation that is not attached to the public network? Then yes, you can have something that is just entirely contained within that single solar installation. That's entirely up to you.
Nice.
But maybe even to displace, to go a little bit further in this, currently we can only do B2B and B2C. So freestanding solar installations at the moment is not something we can do. Um, but I think for this you would need something a little bit more technical. So our program is perfect for your business and for your private customers.
So basically typical rooftop installations, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. All right, I got another one. Okay. Are all K2 mounting kits available on Sollit, D-Dome, Green Vento, Facade, etc.? Yeah, that's the thing. So the idea behind the API is really to have a connection where you can share data between. Means if you start in Solid, go to Base, you will have the full portfolio of K2 in Base, and you will be able to send all those items back to Solid.
And is your catalog of hardware you update it on your own, right? Once you enter
Yeah,
maybe new items, yeah.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
And
always
that's
have
the cool thing through the API, you will get the item name. There might be something missing, like a price, but you can always do that quite easily in Solid
on
and
your
just
own.
add it there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a very, very big understatement of how much at liberty you are. You can handle most of these aspects yourself when you're your own person. So we try to hold your hand, but it's entirely up to you to be successful using those tools that we have
Nice.
created for you.
All right.
If there are no more questions, then I think we want to thank you again, K2, for giving us the opportunity to talk to you.
Pleasure.
We want to thank you guys, of course, for calling in and watching us and asking your questions. It's a lot of involvement. I'm very, very happy to hear it. Always great to know that you're not just talking to a wall, of course.
Right.
Okay, so if
True.
there's nothing else,
Yeah. As always, if there's some questions you guys have in the aftermath, you can always get in contact with us or Solid, and we'll clarify everything.
yeah, we are happy to
All
hear
right.
from you.
Pleasure seeing you guys. Take care. Bye bye.
Goodbye.